From alien elites thought Earth had no more warriors until the Old One walked again. The sky cracked like shattered obsidian, revealing black ships as sharp and silent as the void they came from. They didn't descend with thunder or flame. No, the elites preferred elegance, the way a scalpel slips beneath the skin. Quiet, precise, fatal. They arrived in the third cycle of Earth's collapse. The great nations were already smoke and memory. Borders had bled dry. Governments had become teethless. Twitching corpses ruled by hunger and panic. What remained of humanity cowered in fractured megacities, their walls made of steel, hope, and lies. The air was thick with radiation, and the ocean glowed faintly from past sins. And still, the people whispered of rescue. But no rescue came. Only them. The alien elites, architects of galactic genocide, tyrants dressed in grace. Their armor shimmered like liquid black diamonds. Their faces were hidden behind mirrored visors that reflected the last moments of their victims. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. Their machines, tall, insectile, and pulsing with bioluminescent veins, did the talking, burning, dissecting, enslaving. In 72 hours, the elites turned Earth from a fractured world into a museum of defeat. They didn't just conquer. They curated. Cities were frozen in time. Paris suspended beneath a Stasis dome like a relic. Tokyo reduced to a frozen labyrinth of ash and shadows. And New York, that eternal titan, was turned into a symphony of silence, every heartbeat beneath its ruins catalogued by alien sensors. Humanity's last military broadcast came from a resistance skiff deep in the Canadian wilderness, led by a man whose name has already been forgotten. He screamed into the void, "This is Earth's final war signal. We are not defeated." And then his transmission ended in static and blood. The elites listened. They calculated. They laughed. Not a human laugh, not the kind birthed from lungs and humor, but a mechanical buzz layered in mockery, a sound like teeth clicking over bone. "They are spent," spoke one elite commander in the deep tongue of their dominion. "Earth has no warriors left, only memories." They turned their attention to the core sites, the sacred places of planetary energy, the Himalayas, the Amazon route, the Atlantean sink beneath the Mariana Trench. Their ships bore into the crust like surgical needles. Earth was not to be ruled. Earth was to be harvested. But far below the Appalachian Dead Zone, beneath the cracked concrete bones of an abandoned U.S. military black site labeled Outpost, Thorn Hollow, something old stirred. Not a weapon, not a god. A man. He had no name anymore. Time had taken it. So had guilt. Once, they called him General Thorn, commander of the Iron Brotherhood during the Solar Wars, savior of Europa, the Hammer of Luna. Stories told how he'd faced down the Martian Creo beast with nothing but a vibroblade and a single breath of oxygen. But stories rot. Heroes fade. He had vanished after the final conflict with the Omega Singularity, a weapon so terrible that its activation split the moon and left craters in time itself. He was presumed dead, celebrated, then forgotten. But Thorn hadn't died. He had sealed himself in a Creo lock deep beneath Thorn Hollow, swearing he would only awaken when the world was beyond all hope. He did not wake to sirens, or orders, or a coded signal. He woke to silence. Total, utter silence, the kind that tells you you're the last living thing. He sat up with a gasp that tore the dust of decades from the air. His body was more scar than skin, half machine now, grafted with rejected tech too dangerous for modern use. His joints hissed with ancient hydraulics. His heart, 3 chambers replaced with a quantum core, pulsed back to life like a forge relit. Thorn rose, not with the vigor of youth, but with the slow, deliberate certainty of something unkillable. The command console crackled. Bias sequence reacquired. AUTH, Thorn Alpha. Global network, offline. Celestial traffic, heavy. Warning, planetary occupation detected. He stood before the screen, watching a map flicker to life. It wasn't Earth as he remembered. No blue, no green, just red, pulsing like an infection. The satellites were still functional, partially, enough to show the devastation. The Citadel hovering over London like a black halo, the excavation spires in the Amazon tearing through the lungs of the world, the floating execution platforms over the Nile, and the voices, Echoes from stolen comms, screams, pleas, static. Then, something else. A whisper. Not words. Not language. A feeling. Pain. Rage. Defiance. And something deeper still. Challenge. Thorn's metal hand clenched. "They think we're done," he muttered. His voice was sandpaper-soaking iron. "They think Earth has no warriors." He limped across the room, passing shattered medals and cracked photographs of fallen comrades. He approached the relic vault, its locks crusted with rust and memory. With a hiss of escaping air and a chime like a morning bell, the vault opened. Inside, a blade forged from alien ore, once used to cleave a war barge in orbit. A set of armor bonded to his DNA. A revolver that never missed. And the final transmission from the Iron Brotherhood. He played it. "If you're hearing this, then we're gone. And that means it's your turn, Thorn. Don't let the fire go out. Light the bastards up." He closed his eyes, the weight of history pressing against him. And when they opened again, they burned. Not with youth. Not with vengeance. With purpose. Outside Thorn Hollow, in the ash-covered ruins of what once was Virginia, a sentry drone drifted lazily in the acidic breeze. Then it stopped. A single human figure, wrapped in scorched metal, stepped from the earth. The drone scanned him. No match found. No threat level detected. Classification, irrelevant organic. It turned away. And in that moment, a dagger of light exploded through it, splitting it in half. From the ashes, the Old One, for that was what Earth would soon call him again, marched forward. Each step echoed like war drums beneath the earth. Each breath reminded the stars. Earth was not finished. Dawn did not return to Earth. Not really. The sky remained choked in a permanent amber bruise, an endless chemical haze where sunbeams struggled to bleed through. Birds were gone. Trees, skeletal. And the wind carried only the howls of old buildings collapsing under their own regret. In the ruins of what had once been Appalachia, now labeled Dead Zone 17B on elite maps, a man walked. Not just a man. A storm with bones. He moved with the weight of forgotten wars, wrapped in matte black armor that looked less worn and more haunted. Each plate shimmered with micro-scars, the kind you get from plasma hits, not time. A red scarf fluttered from his shoulder, the only hint of color against the world's ash palette. Drones watched him. Orbital eyes blinked. Still, the Old One walked. The elites didn't act. They calculated. He was alone. He was old. And they had already won. But General Thorn, though no one called him that anymore, was not walking blindly. He followed the faint tremor of human resistance, that flicker buried under the weight of centuries and surrender. A signal too quiet to track, too chaotic to decode, but real. It led him to the outskirts of the broken verge, where the remnants of San Angeles lay like a corpse in a forgotten morgue. The skyline had collapsed into jagged ribs of metal. Streets were veins of cracked glass and melted stone. Towering above it all was a gutted megamole, split down the middle by what looked like a lightning strike sent from hell itself. And at its center, there were voices, laughter, music, and movement. Humans. The first one he saw was shirtless, wearing a collar of lead lights and spike leather. He stood atop a twisted statue of liberty, blade balanced on one shoulder, chewing gum like it was a philosophy. His frame was lean, his stance relaxed, but his eyes, oh, those eyes, burned with wild joy and something else, defiance. "Yo," the twink said, spotting Thorn from afar. "You real?" Thorn said nothing. The youth whistled, low and impressed. "Man's built like a punishment. That metal real or cosplay?" Thorn kept walking, slow and steady. The youth hopped down, graceful as a dancer. Others appeared, sliding from behind derelict vehicles, stepping through flames like they were nothing, climbing down from shattered billboards. They were all variations on a theme, beautiful, sharp, untamed. Neon-haired, tattooed, genderless and proud. Lean muscle and perfect chaos. The twinks of the wastes. The first spoke again. "Look, Grandpa, usually when old-world metalheads stroll through here, they want one of three things. Food, sex, or to sell snake oil about resistance bunkers in the Alps. You want one of those things." Thorn stopped just short of the group. His voice rolled out like thunder behind stone. I want soldiers. Silence. Then raucous laughter. One of them, a pink-haired twin with silver blades for fingers, fell off a broken car laughing so hard they choked. You hear that, Vex? Someone called. He wants to recruit us. The leader, Vex, the one who had spoken first, tilted his head, intrigued. War's over. Steelman. Didn't you hear? Earth's a trophy. We're the glitter on its grave. The war is never over, Thorn said. Something in his voice changed the air. It vibrated, made even the heat feel colder. Vex stepped closer, amused but wary. You're serious? Thorn reached into his coat and tossed something onto the cracked concrete. It landed with a dull clink. A drone core, still twitching, still hot. Its casing bore the seal of the elite Highbloods. The twinks fell silent. That from today? Vex asked, his voice suddenly sober. Thorn nodded. How many? 7. Scouts. North Patrol Ring. And you're not dead? No. A hush fell over the group. The kind of hush that makes time itself lean in. Vex picked up the core, inspected it, then tossed it to one of his crew with a smack. Well, that's one hell of a calling card. Back in their hideout, an inverted dome theater-turned-fortress, nightclub, and armory, the twinks watched footage from Thorn's helmet cam. The visuals were crude but raw. A one-man rampage against 7 elite drones, each kill surgical. No wasted movement, no panic, just precision and violence, like ballet dipped in gasoline. Vex poured himself a drink that glowed blue. You fight like a ghost. Thorn didn't sit, didn't drink. He stood in the shadows like a statue carved from wool. I've seen ghosts, he said. They scream. I don't. Vex chuckled, but there was respect in his eyes now. So why he? Why us? Thorn looked at each of them, at the scars, the pride, the rage hiding behind glitter and flame. Because you're all that's left. Another silence. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. Rune, the silent one with the coded tattoos, finally spoke. We're not soldiers. No, Thorn said. You're better. You survived. That makes you dangerous. The first trial came that night. An elite drop pod slammed into the old metro line. A skirmish crew, tall, wiry, chitting in an alien tongue like bones grinding in a drum. They expected easy prey. What they got was Vex, vaulting from the shadows, slicing through 2 of them with a plasma katana and a smile. They got Rune hacking their neural net mid-fight, turning their comms into feedback loops that made them scream until they collapsed. They got Thorn, the old one, walking through gunfire like a cathedral on legs, his revolver barking once for every life he ended. And when it was over, when the last elite gurgled its last words in a language no human had ever cared to translate, the twinks stood taller. They had tasted real war, and liked it. Later, on the roof of the wrecked dome, Vex sat beside Thorn, legs dangling into the toxic wind. You know what they call us? Vex asked. Thorn didn't reply. Vermin. That's what the elites call humans now. They say we're beneath classification. They think Earth is a graveyard. Then we'll be its ghosts, Thorn said. Vex smiled, slow and wicked. I like you, old man. I'm not here to be liked. Well, too bad. You've got style. Somewhere far above them, in the stratosphere of a dying world, the Citadel scanned the data feeds. The drone's telemetry was corrupted. Combat reports made no sense. 1 human, multiple unknowns. Units lost, all. An elite overseer watched the feed again. And again. It zoomed in on Thorn's face as he stared directly into the lens before shooting it out. The overseer tilted its head. This unit is not archived. No matching files. No previous engagement records. A pause. Then a deeper voice, cold, commanding, ancient, filled the chamber. Begin full analysis. Of what, Supreme? Of the Old One. And so the legend grew, in the burned places, in the dark, in the cracks of forgotten buildings and blood-stained dreams. They said the Old One had returned, that he walked with warriors dressed in flame and laughter, that the elites were afraid, and in every resistance cell still breathing, From the radioactive wastes of Istanbul to the shattered ice fields of Siberia, a whisper rose from the ruins. The war isn't over. Long before the war was lost, before cities cracked like old porcelain and skies wept radiation, there had been legends, warriors of steel, armies of order, strategists who moved satellites like chess pieces and could end wars with one encrypted whisper. That was before. Now, the world belonged to chaos, and chaos had a name. It echoed through the waste zones, painted across broken walls, etched into the wreckage of scavenged mechs and twisted billboards. The twinks of the wastes. They weren't an army, not in any traditional sense. No ranks, no flags, no protocols. But they were fast, they were beautiful, and they were absolutely lethal. Their domain stretched from the Pacific ruins to the scorched veins of the Nevada ashlands. What was left of San Angelo served as their central den, a city gutted by orbital fire but humming with stolen power and pulsing to a rhythm made of neon, sweat, and rebellion. Every elite scout that crossed their territory vanished. No distress signals, no corpses, only fragments of armor found days later, pierced with blades, spray-painted with glittered insults, sometimes left impaled on towers for all the sky to see. The twinks lived by one rule: survive with style or die invisible. They wore that creed like a second skin. Rune, the silent one, communicated only through glowing glyphs that danced across their cyber tattoos. One look into their silvered eyes and you knew they had cracked elite mainframes and walked out smiling. Vex, the leader, was part weapon, part KO spirit, lithe and unpredictable, with a voice smooth as oil on fire. Others came and went like rumors. Blaze, whose hair changed color with a mood and whose rocket boots defied gravity. Switch, who laughed in 3 languages while dual-wielding carbon daggers. They weren't just survivors. They were statements. When Thorn entered their world, he did more than wake a legend. He lit a fuse. At first, the twinks watched him with amusement, even fascination. A relic in armor, walking like a soldier out of time. But after the first battle, when elite units crumbled under their combined force, everything changed. Vex stood in their shattered theater bunker, arms spread like a preacher beneath a stained glass skylight made from melted holoscreens. "We've got a ghost from before the fall. Babies," he declared, pointing at Thorn. "An honest-to-God's warrior from the Golden Age. You know what that means." Rune's glyphs flickered. Reckless hope. "Exactly." Vex laughed. "The kind that gets us killed. But tell me that's not fun." The bunker roared with laughter, claps, howls, stumps. "Thing is," Vex said, stepping off the dais, face turning solemn, "we've been playing this game too long. Hiding, hitting, running. But maybe, just maybe, it's time we burn the bar down." Thorn didn't command them. He didn't need to. He inspired. He taught them to fight smarter, to strike harder. He drilled them in forgotten tactics, urban flanks, terrain pressure, decoy misdirection. He shared war stories, not like a boastful old vet, but like a sculptor sharing scars from every chisel blow. And the twinks? They absorbed it like rain in dry ground. They refined his brutality with their unpredictability. And then they launched a campaign. Not a full war. Not yet, but surgical chaos. They hit an elite fuel skimmer traveling through the ashlands, Vex diving from a ruined overpass, slicing into the cockpit with a cry of surprise, "Bitch!" as Blaze ignited the engine from beneath with a smile. They hijacked an orbital comms tower, rune patching into the elite broadcast line and replacing all transmissions with footage of them pole dancing on a downed elite mech while Toxic by Britney Spears blared in the background. They even stormed a resource node extraction center in the Arizona Crater Zone, where Thorn used a single EMP knife to shut down all defenses while Switch and Rune planted microcharges in the elite's energy cores, timing the explosions with perfect dramatic flair. Humanity began to notice. The resistance, what was left of it, started tuning into hacked elite feeds. When they saw the old one standing among these wild, unchained rebels, the message was unmistakable. Earth fights again. Of course, the elites noticed too. At first, they dismissed the attacks as anomalies, then as sabotage, then as rebellion. The overseers reviewed the surveillance, half-naked humans in makeup and combat boots wiping out elite skirmish crews, dancing mid-fight, carving we're still cute into drone plating. The AI consensus processed a situation in trillions of simulations. Outcome, unacceptable. So they sent a new unit, the Bone Cast. They weren't built for conquest. They were built for extermination. Silent, insectile, adaptive, and very, very fast. On the fifth night of what the Resistance began calling the Glow War, a Bone Cast kill squad descended into the wastes. They came without light, without sound, and they came for the twinks. They attacked at night. Vex was the first to sense it. He bolted upright in his sleeping chamber, instinct screaming. He ran barefoot, sprinting down the spiraling steps of the ruined theater. Sparks lit the air. Gunfire, screams, and blood. Too much blood. Thorn was already fighting, slamming a Bone Cast assassin into a concrete column, shattering both. Blaze was on the balcony, boots aflame, raining fire down like an avenging demon. But they were outnumbered, outclassed. These weren't drones. These were precision instruments of death. Vex met Rune in the wreckage of the club hall. "This is a culling," he spat. "Rune's tattoos fled, then we survive it." Vex pulled both plasma daggers from his thigh holsters, flipped them into reverse grip. "Let's give them a show." And they did. A violent, brutal ballet erupted in the heart of the wastes. Thorn fought like a dying god, his old bones moving with machine speed, his heart, that pulsing quantum core, thundering like a war drum. He tore arms from sockets, shattered chitin plates. At one point, he caught a Bone Cast operative midair, ripped off its mask, and snarled into its pale face, "Tell your masters, Earth is not done." Then he crushed its head between his hands like a fruit. By morning, 13 twinks were dead. 3 Bone Cast units had escaped. But the rest? Gone. Ripped apart. Annihilated. The aftermath was quiet. Vex stood on the highest ledge of the ruins, looking out over the wastes. Blood still steamed in the cracked stone. He turned as Thorn approached, armor stained black-red, chestplate flickering. "You knew this would happen," Vex said, voice low. "I knew they would escalate," Thorn replied. "They came to kill us because we mattered," Rune added, joining them, arms crossed over glowing scars. Vex's jaw flexed. "We're not used to casualties." "That's because until now, you weren't a threat," Thorn said. "You dance on graves. Now you're digging them." Silence stretched. Then Vex said, "So what's next, Old One?" Thorn stared out at the wasteland. His voice was steel dragged across a tombstone. "Now, we bring them free." And somewhere in orbit, aboard the Grand Citadel, an overseer watched the data with something it hadn't felt in 1,000 years. Concern. Pain hung in the bunker like smoke. It wasn't just a metallic sting of cauterized wounds or the smell of ruined synth flesh. It was something deeper, a silence so sharp it could cut the soul. 13 twinks were gone. Not missing. Not captured. Gone. Vex had stopped laughing. Blaze no longer joked when setting charges. Even Rune, who had always danced through combat with calculated mischief, now moved like a shadow sharpened by rage. They weren't rebels anymore. They were warriors. And the waste knew it. The Old One sat at the center of it all, motionless, his massive frame lit by flickering blue light from damaged ceiling strips. His armor was still cracked, blackened by plasma fire. His right shoulder had taken a direct Bone Cast strike, fractured, fused, then reinforced with steel from one of their fallen assassins. He wore their bones now, as armor, as a warning. "You should rest," said Vex, stepping into the chamber, voice quieter than usual. "I'll rest when we win," Thorn replied. "You think we still can." The Old One didn't look at him, just reached to his side and drew something from a pouch. A fragment, a data chip, covered in alien script and still humming with dark energy. "What is that?" Vex asked. Thorn looked up, eyes glowing with the same fire they'd held the day the sky burned. "Our next step." The chip had come from one of the dead Bone Cast. It was encrypted, but not beyond Rune. In the war room, a dome of rusted terminals and cannibalized servers humming like a choir of dying angels, Rune stood in the middle of a swirling holographic projection. Glyphs rotated around them, symbols unlocking like blooming weapons. Everyone was gathered. Vex, Blaze, Switch, Ember, the The remaining twinks, fewer now, but sharper, more dangerous. And what Rune found made even Thorn lean forward. Citadel Bloodlight Protocol. Rune translated, voice digitized through their neck implant. A directive activated only under maximum insurrection risk. So we're pissing them off properly, Vex muttered. More than that, said Thorn, pointing to the holomap. They are bringing the Ascendants. A beat of silence. Even the machine seemed to still. The what now? Blaze asked. Elite royalty, Thorn said. Hybrids. Spliced with Earth DNA, grown in Core World laboratories. More agile than Bonecast. Smarter than high blood generals. They don't just kill. He paused. They rewrite the battlefield. The Ascendants had not walked Earth in decades. Their arrival was always marked by planetary lockdowns, genocide waves, or the extinguishing of entire cultures in a single cycle. They were myth to most survivors. Until now, a transmission came that very night. Not intercepted, sent directly to them. On every broken screen in the bunker, the face appeared. It was human, or nearly, angular, flawless. Lips like a knife's curve, eyes glowing a soft violet. Skin metallic, but supple. It wore no armor, no insignia, only an aura of crushing elegance. It spoke, not in threat, not in warning, but with a smile. You must be so proud. You've made noise. You bled some of our machines. How cute. Vex threw a blade at the screen. It shattered, but the transmission simply leapt to another wall. We Ascendants have watched Earth rot for centuries. We've walked over its corpses. We've kissed the wind and let your suffering perfume our temples. But now? Now you want a second dance. A revival. The Ascendant leaned in. We will burn your resurrection. And the screen blinked out. They're afraid, Thorn said flatly. Vex raised an eyebrow. Didn't sound afraid. They addressed us directly. That's not power. That's panic dress in silk. Rune nodded. Broadcast came from low orbit. Bloodlight Fortress. They are staging there. Blaze exhaled. You're not seriously suggesting we go up? Thorn turned to face them all. Every war has a moment, he said. One instant that defines what follows. A point of no return. His eyes narrowed. This is ours. They prepped in silence, the NO music this time, the NO banter. Each twink moved with focused ritual. Armor was cleaned, repaired, painted, weapons sharpened, jetpacks tuned, implants charged, blaze-wide explosives into bra straps. Rune uploaded a virus that could melt neural networks in milliseconds. Vex slipped into a combat catsuit woven from captured stealth fabric, matte, dark, and cruelly elegant at the center of it all. Thorn stood still while the others worked on him. Switch reinforced his exoplate. Ember sealed the shoulder scar with molten synth steel. Ever fought off-world? Blaze asked him. Yes, Thorn said. Good, because I'd hate for you to puke on your way up. The launch platform had once been a luxury cruise terminal. Now it was skeletal scaffolding in flame, reproposed by madmen and dreams. They rode up on a stolen elite graveskiff, cloaked by Rune's blackout field as the waist shrank below. Thorn looked down one last time. Hell, he whispered. Home. Vex corrected. Bloodlight Fortress awaited them above the earth like a wound stitched across the stars. A circular ring of obsidian metal bristling with towers, guns, and cruelty. Red light pulsed from its core like a heartbeat, hence the name. They breached the outer hull at velocity, dropping through airlocks with explosive impact. Thorn hit the deck like a meteor. Vex landed behind him. Rolling into a sprint, Rune vanished. They were in, and chaos followed. The first guard went down without a sound. Twinks moved like myths, sliding between shadows, weapons whispering through flesh and armor. When alarms finally screamed, it was already too late. Thorn led the charge down the fortress spine, blasting through plasma doors, hurling drones into bulkheads. Blaze danced through flames. Switch spun like a cyclone of metal and sass, slashing throats while blowing kisses. Vex reached the control core first. Inside, a figure stood waiting. The Ascendant. And it smiled. You came, it said. I love dramatic entrances, Vex replied. The Ascendant flicked a hand. Gravity surged. Crushing, brutal. The room twisted. Rune screamed. Twinks hit the floor. Except Thorn, Duddy kept walking. Painfully. Slowly. Step by step. You bend space, he growled, but you bleed like anything else. And then he leapt. Their fight was seismic. The ascendant moved like thought, teleporting, slashing, distorting. Thorn countered with raw brutality. Each strike cracked walls. Each blow shook the station. Around them, the Twinks fought for survival, hacking terminals, detonating charges, holding off swarms of synthetic defenders. Rune, bleeding from the mouth, crawled to the mainframe. They uploaded the virus. A scream echoed through the station. Not human. The Ascendant staggered. Its eyes flickered, and that's when Vex struck. A single blade, right through its heart. Its mouth opened, to laugh or curse, no one knew, before it dissolved into smoke and sparks. The fortress began to collapse. Thorn threw Rune over his shoulder. Vex triggered the recall beacon. One by one, the team leapt into escape pods as bloodlight cracked like an egg. Thorn waited until the last second, then jumped. Back on Earth, the sky lit up as the station burned, falling in pieces like crimson snow. The Twinks, bruised and battered, emerged from the wreckage. Alive, changed, more than rebels, more than warriors. Symbols, proof, the Resistance lit torches at night. From the northern shard to the Bone Coast, they howled a new name into the night. Not Twinks, not wastes, but something primal, something pure. We are Earth. And in the dark, among the ashes, Thorn finally allowed himself to smile. The sky didn't mourn. It screamed. Chunks of bloodlight fortress burned through the upper atmosphere, casting trails of crimson fire across the clouds. The waste glowed beneath it all, a world once forgotten, now alight with revolution. But war wasn't finished, because even a dying empire doesn't go quietly. It thrashes, and the elites had begun to thrash. Thorn stood at the edge of the impact zone, armor scorched, eyes reflecting fire. The others gathered behind him, Vex, Blaze, Rune, Switch, and the last of the Twinks. What now? Switch asked, twirling a jagged blade nervously. Blaze spit into the dirt. We blew up their death palace. You think they're gonna shake hands and leave? They're going to send everything, Rune said softly, runes flickering in warning. All at once. Thorn nodded. They'll bring the final surge. Vex raised an eyebrow. That's not a metaphor, is it? No, Thorn said. It's a protocol. In deep orbit, aboard the Morning Core, the elite High-Bloods gathered. The Ascendants were dead. The Bloodlight Fortress, gone. And Earth's humans, once dismissed as vermin, had not only resisted, but wounded them. It was, by their logic, unacceptable. Thus, they activated the failsafe. Final Surge Directive, Operation Cindervale. It meant one thing: eradication. No more hybrids. No more machines. No more subtlety. Just fire. Pure. Blinding. Planet-killing fire. The first tremor hit just after midnight. A pulse in the earth. Then a second, deeper, sharper. The sky fractured with distant thunder, even though no storm brewed. By morning, half the world saw it. The black line across the clouds, a perfect scar that stretched from horizon to horizon. A rift, a gate, and from it came the surge. It didn't walk. It rolled. A tide of biomechanical death. Drones like locusts. Titan mechs fused with animal spines. Human bodies reanimated with elite tech, twisted beyond recognition, moving in waves, screaming static. They were mindless, endless, a final breath of a dying empire, designed to bury Earth in silence. Vex slammed a fist into the table in the war den. This isn't a battle. This is extinction. Thorn stood unmoved. No, this is our last stand. Against that, Switch gestured to the satellite feed, where the surge had swallowed entire cities like a black tide. That's not a fight. That's a goddamn funeral. Blaze lit a plasma charge and grinned. Then let's make it the loudest funeral in history. Rune's glyph pulsed. If we must fall, let us do it in fire. Thorn nodded once. Then we take the fight to the cradle. Everyone froze. The cradle. The central server core of the elite's Earth command grid. Buried deep under the old world city of Gene Vault, now a no-man's land of poisoned soil and automated defenses. But if they could reach it, they could end the surge. The journey was suicide. Every mile brought new horrors. Rivers of sludge, ruins crawling with nanoworms, skies full of surveillance drones that screamed when they died. The Twinks fought every step. They blew up dropships with dance bombs. They hacked servers mid-battle. They rode broken monorails into firestorms. And slowly, piece by piece, the team was whittled down. Blaze fell in the fields of shattered glass, laughing as she set off a final explosion. Switch was taken in the underholes, surrounded, still cackling, still carving poetry into their enemies' chests. Each death carved deeper lines into Thorn's face. But he didn't stop. Not once. They reached the cradle's mouth just as dawn broke over the apocalypse. It was beautiful. And terrible. A spiral of black towers descending into the earth, surrounded by a moat of toxic data mist. At its heart, the heart core, a pulsing crystal of alien memory. It's alive, Rune whispered. No, Thorn said. It's waiting. The final battle was not a clash. It was a flood. They dropped into the cradle like firebrands hurled by gods. Every corridor screamed with alarms. Mechs rolled from floors. The walls turned into teeth. Vex spun through the chaos like a storm of vengeance. Rune weaved a song of code and fury. And Thorn? Thorn walked through bullets like they were raindrops. He broke steel with his fists. He used the dead elite's own spine as a blade. He willed his way through. But even legends can bleed. Vex caught a shot through the stomach. He fell to his knees, blood pouring from his mouth. Thorn caught him. No, Vex coughed. No drama. Just do it. Finish it, or I'm haunting you. And he laughed once, before going still. Rune pressed forward alone, eyes wild, hands shaking, streaming cold from their arms like liquid lightning. They reached the heart core, breath ragged, body half-broken. They whispered the final phrase, the one the old one had buried in them, a phrase from before the fall. Override, last human standing. The core shuddered. It screamed. Lights died. The surge froze mid-motion. The servers melted from the inside out. Across the earth, the tide of death stopped. Mechs collapsed. Drones fell like metal rain. The reanimated twitched once, then crumbled. Silence returned. Thorn stood in the heart core chamber, blood dripping from dozens of wounds, looking down at Rune's motionless body. They had smiled. They had died smiling. And Earth was quiet. Weeks passed. The skies cleared, slowly. Sunlight touched ruins long forgotten. Survivors emerged, and in the wastes, a new city began to rise. Built from bones and hope, neon and steel. They called it Ashlight. At its center, a monument. A statue of Rune, arms raised, code spinning from their fingers. A mural ablaze, wreathed in fire. A blade carved with Vex smirk. And behind it all, a wall, made of cracked, old-world metal. On it, just two words. We endure. Some say Thorn walked into the desert one day and never returned. Others say he watches from the shadows still, the last sentinel, the old one, waiting for the next war. But the truth? The truth is this. He won. He fought. He brought Earth back. And in the end, as the stars blinked over a healing planet, the galaxy whispered the name of the ones who had saved it. Not armies. Not kings, not conquerors, but a ragged, fierce, glittering band of rebels, the Twinks of the wastes, and the old one who walked again.